Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor J. O'Connor.
Almighty God and Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight and we ask you to be here, to be present. Lord, we ask that you would give guidance, that you would give wisdom, that you are the fountain of all wisdom. And Lord, thank you that you care about us. You care about this town. You love the people of this town. And you want good for us. And so guide each of these leaders and give them your wisdom, give them insight, help them to work in a unified way. And Lord, pull their minds together to bring about good for this community, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
They used to sit here.
I know, I'm trying to do that.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, the first thing, we have our public hearing. You want to read the
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Walton, Delaware County, New York, at the Village Hall, 21 North Street, on the 6th day of November 2017 at 6 p.m. to hear public opinion on Local Law 2017-5, a local law to amend Chapter 49-5, one-way roads to include Shepherd Street. All interested parties and citizens will be heard who are for or against this amendment.
Need a motion to open up?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if anyone would like to comment on this, would you please raise your hand and stand up, say your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Flossie Curtis, and I have something, I live on 35 Shepherd Street. I have a petition that is signed by residents on the perimeter of Shepherd Street, as well as Shepherd Street itself. I do not have pet shops on there, because I could not catch them, but their signatures, I'm sure, would have been on there. There's over 120 signatures here, and very few people that I knocked on the doors. The only reason they gave me they would not sign it is they don't get involved in public affairs. Thank you. What does it say?
It says, "We, the undersigned, being residents or live in the proximity of Shepherd Street, oppose that Shepherd Street become a one-way road." Correct? Okay. Would anyone, yes?
Jean Hansen, I live on Burton Street. I just have a question. Why would they make it a one-way street?
The reason it being a one-way street is if you're on Shepherd Street, you see right now it's wide enough for two vehicles, and they also have parking on the street. The guide rails some of them are literally hanging over the side of the cliff. They've been there for quite a long time. The bank itself has been deteriorating for probably many years, way before I got here. And it's just caving in more and more. So we spoke to Senator Bonasack, and we've got $100,000 that he's willing to give us to help work on this project. So the one thing that we have to do is move the guide rails in 2 or 3 feet. By moving the guide rails in, it cuts out on the area that we would have for cars going back and forth.
It's not possible to just reinforce the street as it was.
The bank is that far, it's not even sound underneath there. We have to move Minaway to put it on sound footing. So, we're only doing this because we're trying to make it safer and better. The bottom part between Burton and Mead Street is barely wide enough for, if 2 cars go there right now, it's really, really tight.
Not that bad, I do it every day.
Okay.
Always people coming the other way, so it is doable. Is there possibility of doing it from Burton Street down as one way?
I'm going to give you all the different, I mean, there's a lot of different options, but I like to hear from what people want to say first. One of the suggestions was to put a one-way from East Street down to Mead Street. Another suggestion could be you could have a two-way from East Street to Burton, but you take off the parking put no parking on Shepherd at all, because that would give you another space. We could move more and still have pretty good space to go. Along with that, going from Burton down to Mead is a real concern about moving, or make that a one-way regardless of what happens, either from Burton down or from, if you go from east all the way down, to make that one
Miller
particular.
Avenue down.
Miller Avenue down.
There's no houses. Well, there's.
Well, Miller
one house
Avenue,
there.
yeah.
From there down, one way, and the rest.
Yeah, I guess, anything is possible, but that is the reason why we're looking into this. One of the things that would be done, other than moving the guide rails in, on the lower portion of Shepherd Street by Tripp Avenue, that's the worst, that's really bad over there. We would have to put some, they call them soil nails in and reinforce that. The upper portion, what we need to do is put a couple catch basins in, and then we would have piping, I don't know what you call it, drainage, sorry, I'm a little stupid. The drainage would go down to the river, down to the stream, so that the water would go right there. It would no longer be deteriorating the bank itself. So these are the different options. We're only doing this to try and make it safer and better. And God forbid anybody now hits any of those guide rails, they're going right over. There's nothing there. If you go by there, you probably see them. Some of them are just barely hanging on. So that's our thought about the thought process. That's why we're having a public hearing, to have everybody come down and have their input. And then we'll decide which way to go.
Well, please, we have to do something. I mean, it's progressing. It's not just, it hasn't been like that way for 50 years. It's a progressive kind of issue. We have no choice but to do something. So it's a matter of what's the best solution that will make it a safe street while we look to address it. And I mean, to just fix it is prohibitively expensive right now. It's just, we're not going to be able to fix it. And if you drive, it's a long stretch of street that needs attention.
Yeah, mostly from Miller Avenue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have something else to say.
Sure.
I have lived there since 1982.
Okay.
There has been minimal upkeep on that road. I believe at this point, we deserve to have our guardrail fixed and our embankment reinforced the way it needs to be. There was never anything done after the flood either, nothing, and it needed repair
Either
then.
flood, 2006 or 11.
Either flood. We had a suggestion that we were talking of do a weight limit.
Should have been dropped down to just local traffic only and have a weight limit put on the road to begin with.
You know how
Next,
many-
there should be no parking on that street. That would make a lot more sense than turning it into a one-way street.
You can't not have no parking.
You certainly can.
Yes.
Shared driveways.
One at a time, please. Excuse
I
me.
have Thanksgiving
We have a
dinners
shared
and
driveway.
nobody parks on the street. Ted has Thanksgiving dinner at the same time. Nobody
They need
parks
to
on the
address
street.
that.
Excuse me, you're addressing the board, with please arguing. We'll give everybody a chance to talk. Someone else, Larry, you want to
Yes.
say something?
You
Yeah.
cannot not have parking. Okay, I have 2 houses on that block, one of them being an apartment house. We can't all fit into one driveway. We're maxed out. We just spent, we're going to be up to 30,000 on the driveway. There's not enough room.
Better take out a couple apartments and reduce the size of the house then.
Yeah.
Was that comment addressed to us?
Well, what?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
That was a suggestion.
At my property, there wouldn't be enough parking.
Okay.
in my
There
own
was
house.
parking there before she bought
And
it.
as I'm trying to talk, I had a
Can
suggestion.
you let her finish talking, please?
We have a grass line between the street and the sidewalks. From East Street, it gets a little narrow, but if we take out all the grass, all the way down to Burton, that'll give us 3 to 4 more feet. That is a given. And bring the asphalt right to the sidewalks. That will help. Because you have to bring the guardrails in. I understand that. I'm not gonna sit here, I understand it. So we have to gain some feet, and that's how we're gonna gain the feet.
Okay, yes.
Have you got estimates for,
The work we want to do,
yeah?
roughly it's about 180,000, Bill? For 180,000 for what we want to do right now. And that's not rehabbing the whole bank, because we just wouldn't have enough money. We could go with $1 million doing everything. We're doing just what needs to be done, putting in the catch basins and putting the proper piping to go down to the stream would stop the erosion, so.
So why can't we put Jersey barriers down through there? That'll take and eliminate the threat of somebody going over the bank, eliminate the parking until such time we have funding to do it.
Jersey barriers, that,
Takes 18 inches of room to put on the road. And you ain't going over them.
Takes an awful lot of speed to move one of them.
You ain't gonna see
you get a lot of,
Could you gentlemen identify yourselves, please?
I'm
Richard Curtis at 35 Shepherd Street.
Thank you,
I'm Joel Griffin at 29 Shepherd Street.
thank you.
okay, I didn't hear about the barriers, the Mozart brought that up, so, I don't know, we can look into it. Yes, ma'am.
Amanda Reeder, 19 Shepherd. I live in between Burton and Miller. If you move the guardrail into the road, my concern is backing in and out of my driveway. It is very narrow right there already as it is, and if there's an emergency or anything else going up right there, you're gonna have issues. And I already have issues as is because my area is the most deteriorated part of that street already. So you cut in, I won't be able to get in and out. That's a concern I have.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Joe.
Bob Peschow. I own 17 and 19 Shepherd Street. And that is one of the biggest things I say. I pull in that, Amanda and my son live at 19 Shepherd Street. With a little compact car, you can back out safely and your rear bumper barely touches the guardrail. When I go out with my minivan, you gotta be real careful. You almost have to do a 3-point turn backing out. I've owned that there since '85. Been going through there longer than that. Like Flossie said, that road has gotten zipped for attention. It might have got some tar and chips on it. I don't see how that bank is so much worse than it ever was in the last 40 years. I drove by there. Some of the guide rails are leaning toward the bank, over the bank. A backhoe and some stones pushed in behind it, they'll straighten right up. I've worked for New York City for 32 years and we've done that mile after mile after mile. You put a little more dirt or heavier shot rock over the edge. The biggest thing I see, you talk about water going over the bank, put a little blacktop. You got the big ditches on the inside of that road. If you pitch it toward the inside, you aren't going to need catch basins or anything else. It takes it right down to Mead Street.
Okay.
Like I say, putting some blacktop in it and pitching it inward is going to be cheaper than digging into catch basins and everything. Like I say, the village crew can straighten them guardrails up like nothing. And it wouldn't, other than paying them like every day like you got to anyhow, it isn't going to cost the village any more. You won't, unless the guardrails themselves are bad, which I'm sure you probably got some old guardrail someplace. That's all you got to do is straighten them up. It's basically handwork. And like I say, my biggest concern is, you just like that, you bring them a couple feet and forget about getting in and out of the driveways. It's, especially the one house, 17 Shepherd, it's an angled driveway. Depending on which way you do it, you want to back a trailer, a boat trailer, a camper or something in there, not going to happen. I say, I think for very minimal, with your village crew can do a majority of that work and straighten them guardrails out and everything, like I say, some blacktop and pitch it away from the bank.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Jennifer Davis, 29 St. John Street. Here's the other thing. You got hydrants up through there. So the length of the street, say you had a fire, you're gonna have a fire truck, EMS, maybe the Walton PD. You're gonna have room to go through there, and if you don't got room to go through there, that's gonna be another problem.
Okay. Anyone else have anything to say? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Richard Curtis of 35 Shepherd Street. Once again, I just would like to point out to the board that if people upon the street that are there have concerns about parking, I don't know whether a permit was pulled for a shed to show up into their driveway, but all of a sudden the driveway space has gotten smaller. So if they're really worried about losing space, they might not put sheds in the way.
Okay.
And that has what to do with what we're talking about?
Parking. That way you don't have that parked on the street. Which, by the way, upon November 15th, I believe it is, there's no parking overnight. So that brings that down
We
more.
already had
more.
November 1st.
November 1st.
November 1st,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Can't do it now anyway, at night. Okay, all right, thank you.
Did he say we didn't?
Anyone else?
I didn't say you didn't have a permit.
No.
You know, you should really be thankful for somebody like me because your property has increased
What's up? Yes,
since I fixed these houses up. You people are crazy.
One more word.
yes.
Excuse me. I lived on 41 Shepherd Street for 25 years. That's partly why I'm here. Those driveways cannot be entered if you come in from East Street.
No, they
You
can't.
can't get up your driveway in
Can't
the
get up your
snow.
driveway.
Not happening, no matter what. So keep that into consideration also.
Okay,
Many a times we have to come down the next street. If there's a real bad ice, we'll try to swing in from the lower end.
okay. Anyone else have anything like to say about it? Anybody on the board have anything to say?
I'm a little confused. I'm hearing complaints that nothing has been done up there. And now we're looking to do something, and everybody wants us not to do anything. So you can't have it
No,
both
you want it-
ways.
you want it from
One
easy.
way.
You don't want it- You're choosing the easy way out.
The easy way out, actually, we're doing exactly the opposite. We are going to stabilize that bank so nothing more happens. The easy way out is, I suppose, putting blacktop and shooting it somewhere else.
Explain to me, please, how you're gonna stabilize the bank.
I can't do that. The engineer can do that for you, though.
Okay. Then why, is the engineer here?
Yes.
Can he explain that to us?
There's a section of the embankment that we're looking at stabilizing between Burton Street and East Street, where the guide rails are tipped out extremely, quite a bit. What's supporting those guide rails right now is stacked pieces of old concrete, probably old sidewalk slabs, and that's what's supporting those guide rails, which is not the appropriate support for guide rails. They should be in something that's more sound. So what we're looking to do is to install a soil nail system similar to what was done on Upper Townsend Street last summer along a portion of that to stabilize the slope and to restrain it so that it can't continue to tip out, and then the guide rails would be installed in concrete piers to prevent them from tipping out, and that if a car was to hit them, would restrain it enough to not go down over the bank.
What do you mean by, what are you gonna use to, what, those blocks or whatever? How are you gonna stabilize the bank?
There's 20-foot rods that get drilled into the bank, and then there's grout that gets pumped around them to tie the bank itself, the face of the bank, all the way back in 20 foot deep and prevent it from tipping out.
Basically, your bank is like this, you're gonna be putting rods that way? So then why do you have to move the guardrails in?
Yeah.
We have to, because you still need to put the guide rails in something sound that is, I don't want to say it. You could leave them out further, but it would need to, to say. We're only doing a portion of the bank with the soil nails. I think we're doing a 50-foot section. We're not doing the whole run-up. It'd be prohibitively expensive. We got 2 estimates to do a section close to Trip Ave, and I think that was in the $60,000 range to make a repair there. We got a second estimate higher up to do a longer strip along the road, and it was $180,000. So that's why, you know, the board's talking about different levels of investment in the street and looking at different options for what's appropriate to invest in the street.
All right. The way I'm hearing this, the biggest concern is on the straightaway between East and Burton Street? Is that where the bank is giving away the most?
No, from Burton Street down to Mead.
He said East, but I think he meant.
From Burton Street to Mead Street. I'm sorry if I misspoke. But that, I mean, that's where there's metal guide rails right now, and you'll see spots where they're tipped out several feet out of alignment. And it's just because what's holding them in the ground, you know, isn't sufficient. So that it should be repaired.
Well, I thought I just understood you say that even with putting those rods in there, then you were gonna put some kind of special anchors for the guardrail post.
Yes. The guide rail posts get cast into the concrete, a concrete face gets put on the embankment, and then there's additional concrete reinforcement that gets built into that to support the guide rails. It's a similar situation to what we did on Upper Townsend Street 2 summers ago. Last
So
summer.
basically, you could keep that as wide as it is right now.
Which isn't wide enough for a two-way street if you go by the federal and state
It's
guidelines.
been passed that way
I
forever.
understand that. I'm just saying, if you read the state and federal guidelines for road design, they have recommendations for how wide a road should be for different types of roads, all the way from interstates down to local collectors.
Recommendation.
Correct.
Just a
See,
recommendation.
this is, you know, I don't wanna, you know, tit for tat. But this is it. Just because they recommend it doesn't mean it has to be done. Like I say, I've lived there, basically gone up and down through there at least 40 years. That road's been the same way. If you meet a car on that narrow section, you both slow down. And that's the way it's been. How many accidents have been on that street?
Basically, probably 0.
Well, this is one of the points I want to bring out. How many accidents have
Well, I
been
don't
on
know,
that
I
street?
haven't, I can ask the police chief, you ever had an accident up there?
Can say.
I didn't hear. What did he say?
It's not that he recalls.
So evidently, the village people are pretty safe when it comes to another car coming the other way, you slow down. I mean, it's not rocket science, it's be safe.
Reduction of speed down to 20 miles per hour or 15 miles per hour, and changing a few things on there would be just as easy as keeping it, and that way we can get into and out of our driveways. That truly is one of the great
No,
concerns.
I don't misunderstand what we're saying. We're not coming here to try and make it difficult for everybody. We're trying to find the solution. And you're coming up with ideas, and I think it's something we need to go back and look at and see what we can do. This is not in concrete that we're gonna do this everything tonight. This is why we have meetings like this, so we can have ideas and talk. Yes, sir.
Well, you've got a concern there of, you know, this bank coming out and eroding.
I'm
Right, no.
Yeah, go ahead.
Up to a year ago, the street sweeper cleaned out on the corner 3-4 times a day, flushing the water down over the bank until such time as the sluice pipe clogged up. And then we dug that out by sticking the fire hose up through it, and flushing more water down over it, and eating the bank away. You know,
Well, I wasn't aware of that. When that's something you brought to my attention, I will definitely look into it.
well, I mean,
But,
that's,
you know, I don't know unless someone tells you. I mean, I like to be everywhere I can, but I don't notice everything. But thank you for bringing that to
well,
my
I mean, that's
attention.
been
I will
done
make
since
sure.
I've lived there, and that's been
3 days a
almost
week.
20
Well,
years.
obviously, it's something that shouldn't have been done when you lived here, but it was, so we'll look into it. And again, just so you understand, let me make it very clear, we're not here
No.
to pound into you guys.
When you
We
got
just want to know
water
what your
washing.
ideas are. We're trying, I know you just can't make everybody happy, that's impossible. But, you know, if you can make most of the people okay, we will. I've heard some good ideas tonight. I heard some concerns about, no one mentioned me ever about can't back out because they bump into the guide rail. That's the first time I heard that. So there are some.
Bumped into them, I've come
Well,
close.
you know what I mean. I'm just saying, I've had some legitimate concerns about parking and everything. So this is not something has to be, it took a while to get to this point. It doesn't need to be done overnight, that's why we have a hearing. We'll take all your suggestions, we'll talk about it, and we'll come back again and talk some more about it. I don't have the answers to some of your questions because I need to sit down with the engineers and the DPW and to try and see if there's a way of formulating something else that might be more approvable from everybody, the majority of people. You are there, you are the people. You know, let's face facts. If we wanted to, or if I wanted to as the mayor, I could say, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna do that, and that's it, tough. But we're not here to do that. We're here, we represent you. That's what you guys pay our salaries, this is what we do. And I talked to everybody, and I said, we wanna listen to you and make it something good that's gonna be for most everybody that's gonna be happy with. So, we'll go back to the planning board, we'll go back and look and see what more we can come up with. So, don't take it that we're trying to force anything down your throat right now, we're not. This is just ideas of what we can do. Because we know that something needs to be done. It bothers me when I go down there and I see the guide rails hanging over the side. My thought to me is, just understand one thing. We as a board, me as the mayor and us as the board members, if someone comes up to us and said, do you know you're gonna have a problem over there because the guide rail is there with it? If we as a board and me as a mayor don't look into it, do anything, then we're liable for what happens. That's the state law. Because
the sidewalk, you can't even walk up the sidewalk. You walk down the sidewalk and it's raised this much.
Well, you know, we try and work with much as we can. Something like this is where the car goes over the cliff, it hits the guide rail and goes over, then.
Well, how do you take in being a homeowner and the people fall onto it? Who's liable?
So that's
Who's liable?
we've gone through that one before too. I mean,
You
the
understand? what I'm
village and
saying?
the homeowners, yes, because we're the ones who put in the sidewalk.
I mean,
That's
Mr.
something-
Dutcher's been up there. He's seen the sidewalk.
Sure, you can ask.
Some of Shepherd Street don't have guardrails. It has them wired, what they call, not guardrails, guide rails.
Guide rail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guide rails.
That's over the bank.
Yeah.
okay.
Could I just make one more point? Has there been any consideration as far as the bank eroding, that possibly taking some of them big heavy trees down because they create undue pressure to weigh to them? You get wet rain and the whole bank starts sliding.
I gotta speak to Soil and Water on that, because I'm not sure, because we might think as regular people about what the trees do and everything. When you talk to Soil and Water, they have a whole different concept. I mean, just like I'm on the Flood Commission, when I first learned about the Flood Commission, I thought, let's go in and just dredge the stream, and that's how we've been doing it for years. Well, when you find out the hydraulics and how everything does, yeah, it takes it out, but it comes back soon. You try the thing is to get floodplains and things like, so you become more aware of it. So I'm thinking that you cut down all the trees, that makes it easier, right? But it may not be the best answer, but I will look into it, that I can tell you, okay?
Well, the reason I say that is because on Chase Brook Road, years ago, a big section, we had a lot of rain, and it sloughed right off toward the reservoir. None of the trees fell over, whatever, they were all upright, just like 4 to 5 feet deep. Roots and everything just slid downhill.
Right.
And they wound up putting the bulkhead panels in there, like, you put along the river bank or whatever.
No, I
roll them down in. But I'm just giving you.
No, I understand what you're saying, because we're doing a lot of work on Water Street. We're gonna be making a big floodplain down there, and my thought was like, let's get some of these trees out of there, we have more room for the water to go, and they said, well, no, you need the roots, because roots to this and that, so, but we will look into that.
Well, I agree with your roots.
Yeah.
But also the weight of a 2-foot diameter tree will push that soil downhill, roots and all.
All right, I'll look into it. Anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have something else. Don't blink your eyes.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blink my eyes. I didn't say anything.
He was winking at you.
That's a even worse.
Yeah.
harassment.
Oh,
You be quiet.
Well, out in front of my house, it's not as eroded as it is other places. And I spoke with the engineers when they are up there. I said, part of the problem, the reasoning behind that is I have a couple of maple trees between the road and the sidewalk. So they're sucking up a lot of that water, which normally would be shooting across the road. And I have the garden between the two of them, so that stops a lot of that water right there. And over the bank, which these guys have been doing too, we take our branches, we lay them crosswise. And you can see a big difference in front of, especially my property, where I put them over the years. You can walk right out onto there. And the other issue with that bank is not all erosion, it's deer. Deer come up in there and they're digging and digging and digging all the time. I don't mean just one, there's 6, 7, 8, 10 of them. And sometimes you can go out there in the morning and you can see a new spot where if it starts raining, where they've made enough trench where it slides right down. There's a way to stop some of those deer that would help.
Yeah, one of the guys in DB made a suggestion about taking some trees and throwing them over there to try and build it up there and make it a little bit stronger. So, I mean, that was a suggestion. Anyone else on this? Yes.
I don't want to sound disrespectful, but why was it let to get this bad? That it would have to come to this? You said nothing's been done since '96.
Well, it hadn't been done since who knows when, I don't know, long before I've been here.
This is the issue.
I hate to assume, but I'm only assuming that there were other more pressing issues in areas that needed it more at the time. I don't know. Who makes that decision? I don't know. I mean, once it was brought to my attention, and I drive around a lot, but sometimes you don't notice every little thing. And when it was brought to my attention, I said, let's look into this. Maybe there's something we can do to make this better over there. Because I kept seeing the guide rails. That really worried me. And someone brought it to my attention. What if somebody gets in an accident, goes over there, I'm letting you know. And I said, whoops, once somebody lets you know, then we got to look into it. So that's why I started really looking into it. So again, we have all great suggestions here. And I make a suggestion that we go back to the drawing board a little bit. There's no rush on it. Nothing has to be done next month. Let's go back and come up with some of the ideas. Some of the ideas you made about the concrete being curved up, we did that up on Townsend Street. If you look at Townsend Street by where the bank is, when they paved, Matt did it, this guy, right? You put a little bit of curve on there, and some of the water has been saving the bank that way. Maybe that's an option too. I mean, we'll throw everything out there. I didn't go by your house and look where you back out of the car. I drive it every day. I go up every morning. I go up there now, especially because I know this is going on. You see the black car, that's me early in the morning. I'm always going up looking. Now I'm going to go by your house and I'm going to look at backing out. I might even go with my car and try it myself. So if you see some black car pulling in a road, it's me. Just to try.
I'm done by 6 o'clock, so.
Yeah, so I do that a lot of times. We had a problem on Burton that I went and I drove. And I like to go and look at it. If I see it myself and drive in, then you can relate to it and tell everybody else. So I would suggest don't be too over concerned. We just wanted your input, which we appreciate you coming and doing. We'll write everything down, we'll go back and sit down and think about it and see if we come up with some more solutions, and then we'll talk to you again about it. That would be my suggestion. I don't know how.
I agree.
I agree.
Are we totally relying on the senators' only money? I mean, the village has no money to deal with any of this kind of stuff.
Correct.
We're trying to keep the taxes
How do we
within.
come up with the money for the rest of the stuff that we do? We put it in the budget, right?
Yeah, we put it in the budget.
Well, let me, this is, for a small part of that whole stretch, it's gonna cost a minimum of $180,000. This goes back to budget. A 1% tax increase raises about a little bit under 13,000. 1% tax increase raises a little under 13,000. So you can imagine what a $200,000+, even stretched out over a few years. So if you pick and choose what we need to do or what we can do, and why the grants from Bonashek or anybody else are so important.
No, I understand that.
We're also trying to get other grants that are out there. I spoke to Soil and Water. This is not the only one. I spoke to different organizations. We have taken other things with high traffic and high volume of stuff going on. This now has become, to me and the board, as a priority.
I mean, you got a
what-
stream below it, so that is,
Yeah, it is.
so
we-
issues too, as well.
It's got to the point where we know this could be a big concern, so we're gonna work on it, and we'll do something with it, and we'll try and make it so it's agreeable with most of the people. Like I said, we can't make everybody happy, I wish it was that easy, but I think that we're gonna come up with something. You have some good ideas, we'll throw them out there, and we'll put them on paper and see how they look, and we'll see what they come up with, and we'll get back to you on it, okay?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure you can. I didn't blink my eyes, you
We
did.
all had to do a reassessment.
Yes,
For myself alone, my school taxes
okay.
were $500 more than they were last year. So that's just one person.
Okay,
Where is all this extra money with all our reassessments? We're gonna have our village taxes, we're gonna have the tax, we're gonna have this tax.
Well,
Now our
if we could
sewer's
get the
rate
school to pay for that road, we would.
Yeah,
I know of just
the school bus uses that
that
road
little
too.
lot across the street, just for you guys, for what, that's a separate deed over there. I think that went up almost $50.
yeah, my my taxes went up about,
Yeah, but that's
my
just
assessment went up
that
about
lot
30,000,
That
so I
goes to the
know.
brook. Now, what can I do over there?
Yeah, see, most of us own that across the road.
What do we
Yeah.
do?
well, I think the same kind of thing that you have
Can I
over on
go?
South Street. Most of the people all across
Do
the
I get to
street,
walk down it?
down that bank too, so
Wanna go, we'll go.
it's just the way it was
You
done
ain't going down over it.
many, many years
You understand what
ago
I'm
when they
saying? But I'm
broke the
still
properties
paying.
up, you know? Yes, sir.
Who was our engineer and what firm was he with?
My name is Bill Brown. I'm with Delaware Engineering.
Okay, thank you.
We have an office here in Walton, and we've been here for a couple of decades.
Who brought up the point about it being impossible to enter a driveway in the
Pesh House, I think, right?
just
No, Jean.
say that
Oh,
one more
Jeannie, I'm
time for
sorry,
everybody
yes.
again?
If you live up there, all the driveways are uphill, most people share a driveway.
Right.
If you come in from East Street in a snowstorm, you cannot get up your driveway.
Ever.
No, because you have
Oh, you'll
just
notice.
a little bit extra speed going around the corner, making it a left rather than a right.
Well, is that because that has a bank going up?
You'll notice in front of our shared driveway.
But if you were coming the other way, it wouldn't be such a problem.
When you come from town up,
From Bean Street.
you take a left-hand turn. Hence, you're sitting on the side that you're turning into. You can turn in and have a better feel of the way to get up the hill.
Okay, I got you, yeah,
But
right.
one of the issues is with everybody's driveways is where the sidewalk runs, you'll notice that some of them up to 36 inches high off from the street to where the sidewalk is, you see? So it's hard to
So
get
if the
up over
road,
that
if the
little
road was a
knoll
little
to
bit
begin
higher, it
with.
would make it easier.
So when you come in from the right, you can't see what you're doing on that side because, I mean, you're restricted by your door blocking
Right,
your view, so you
got you.
can't get around enough.
I got it, I wasn't thinking about coming the other, yeah, okay, I got it.
And I also know that it's hard for the village, who does a great job, you know, trying to get the snow out of there. I told them to push the snow over on my property if they had to.
Thank you. Okay, I guess that's about it for now on this particular, yes.
Just one more thing.
You said that last time.
I just want to thank.
I had to say that.
I decided I'd better say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you all for letting us come out here.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for. You know, I think some people sometimes they forget, we represent you. We're here to listen to what your feedback is. You know, I mean, we're not gonna do anything unless we bring it up to you again. We just need the input. You had some good input today. Things that I didn't think about, and maybe we can do something with it. We'll try,
Thank you.
okay? Yes.
Is it possible
You
you
were
can
blinking.
notify the residents, rather than putting it in the back of the paper? Half of us don't even get to read the paper till the next week, or we don't even see
Some
it,
of us don't even read
you
it.
know? A lot of us don't even read the Walton Reporter anymore.
I'm guessing we could
I don't, what, I missed,
They want to know.
Possible
It's
you
usually in,
notify the
it's in your
residents?
column as well, isn't it, Jody?
On Shepherd Street, Elise,
It was this week.
that's gonna be
Yeah.
brought up again. Yeah, it was in the week
Yeah.
of Walton this week.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, years
It's again
years
another
ago,
expense if we start, and then if you miss somebody, it's just, we try and keep our expenses down so we can keep our
Because
taxes
It
down.
wasn't brought to my attention that it was in the back of the newspaper one time by, I don't know, I think it was my son over in Devonport.
Obviously, it got around. So you're finding out about it.
No, I found out about it, and I made lots of copies, and I spread out all over town because people didn't even
2
know
weeks
about it.
ago.
years ago,
Well, you
these
found about this
meetings,
one, right? We'll make sure you find out.
years ago, these meetings got a lot of coverage by the Daily Star, so would be in often Tuesday's paper, or Wednesday at the latest, but we haven't, that's been years since they covered us.
Facebook, everything is
Yes,
Facebook.
please. All right, if nothing else, we're gonna move on with this, okay?
Close the hearing.
So I need a vote to close.
Make a motion, we close the public.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Seconded that.
Who seconded?
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
She does the hotel over there on, next to pond. Huh? I have no idea. Find out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming. All right, the next thing we gotta go to, number 2, is the abstracts. You all had a chance to look at the abstracts.
I'll make a motion that we approve them as presented.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Take care. Number 3, department heads. Steve. Yes, I did that.
Good evening.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm gonna talk fast, because I gotta go. That was
Can be.
forever. I got 15 minutes to make my next one. I put out an email to you mid-October. I'll try to give you just a brief synopsis of what took place. I think you folks originally received a letter from Dick Gifford requesting a variance, and he had addressed it to the village board.
Yes.
And that letter made its way to county planning because it was requesting a variance. In the meantime, I went and spoken with Dick and tried to get clarification as to what he was looking for. Long story short, what we came to the conclusion is that he's not really asking for a variance because he's not really asking to do anything necessarily with the property, the structures on the property. He's basically looking for rezoning, ultimately is what he's looking for. So I had put out, I created a proposed mixed use zone that I had put out to you folks so you had an opportunity to take a look at it. So kind of carrying this forward, basically it's, do you want to take a look at doing a mixed use zone over there? I can tell you just a brief history. Circa 2006, somewhere around in there, when they were looking at rezoning and changing some stuff. This was proposed back then, actually a much larger area, mixed use zone over there. That kind of got tossed out with everything else. It was actually going to move forward, but it was lumped in with everything else. It kind of got tossed out. When we took a look at mixed use zone again here in the last couple of years, and we ended up creating the mixed use zone over here, we talked about this mixed use zone over on Stockton Avenue again. Planning board decided that they wanted to take little bites instead of big bites, so we worried about this side. And so with Dick bringing this issue up, maybe it's time to take a look at that and see if we want to move forward. At this point, because we've created a mixed-use zone already, it basically would require, if you wanted to move forward with it, would require a hearing and essentially village board vote. We wouldn't have to go through the planning process all over again and all that sort of stuff. So
How many residential houses would be involved?
it depends on how you want to look at it. When you create a zone, you have to do a continuous zone. You can't, going back to the whole spot zoning thing, you can't, create little spot zones here and there and everywhere. So, I mean, you could look at it from basically Sewell Place to William Street, which would capture, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 houses, and the rest of them are, it would be the Castle property, the Grange property, and Gifford's property. Basically Gifford's property being all of that corner, that
And that's where
pie-shaped
his
piece.
properties are that he's concerned about.
That's
right?
where his properties are that he's concerned about. So you could pare it down that far. That gives us a continuous zone of mixed use there. The proposed that I put on there was kind of what we had talked about before, which actually captures the hospital complex all the way over to Maple Street. I don't have my glasses on, can't read. But I was just looking at this a little while ago. You could even pare that back to Titus Place. That would still capture the hospital complex in that zone. Not that it desperately has to be done, but it kind of makes sense because hospital isn't residential, so you might as well capture it under something else. So those are kind of your options at this point. You can do nothing. You can do a pared down version of that, or that proposed.
Steve, your take on this is, are we creating a mixed-use zone for 1 or 2 buildings that somebody would like to do something with, or does it make sense from a conceptual, pragmatic standpoint as well?
I'll put my floodplain manager's hat on for a minute.
Okay.
It makes sense from a floodplain management standpoint to create another area in this village where businesses can go to.
Okay.
With the flood issues that we have down on Delaware Street, if somebody's got another option where they're higher and drier, they might take that
That
option.
was some of the point of doing it on this side of the river.
Correct.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And that's why I'd kind of pushed hard before, and we really didn't get very far. It makes sense to create some area where businesses can go that they're going to keep their feet dry.
But you'd have to have a meeting with all the people involved that live there to come in and have their input, correct?
You'd have to have a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Yes.
Would you do this at the planning board level too?
No, at this point, it's all done at the village board level. So, again, if you wanted to move forward with it, you decide what you want for a proposed mixed-use zone on that side of the
But you're saying
river.
tonight we couldn't recommend to go to the planning board to have them take a look at all this?
You could ask them. They've already done that,
Okay,
absolutely,
okay.
yeah. Yeah. We did that when we looked at all of the mixed-use zone when we were doing it over on this side. So, I suppose you could ask them to look at it again if you so chose.
Now, when they looked at, is this what they looked at, this particular one right here?
We looked at actually.
The one you have right here.
The original circa 2006, there was a lot of on South Street and around and
I
up
understand what I'm saying.
Stockton Avenue.
Have they
So,
looked at this?
Yes,
particular-
they have looked at that.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I'm really.
And I'm sorry, for everybody here who can't see the map that you guys have, can you just tell us what they're proposing to change from to? I understand mixed use, was it residential and commercial, or what?
Right now, what is it now?
It's pretty much all of that is residential.
And that's on Stockton?
It's, yes.
Stockton Avenue.
From the castle?
From the castle down to Maple Street. That's a tentative one. Also thinking of maybe just do it the tightest place, which would be, I think, it would keep less private houses involved in it. It would keep it more into that area right there, if we were to do something like that.
The original requested area is Stockton Avenue at William Street, that there's a corner lot there with two adjacent properties behind it that face William
That's the great
Street.
difference, yeah. that's it.
And so mixed use means what? I'm sorry, commercial and residential?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
But before we did anything like this, we'd have to have a public hearing.
Correct.
Okay. What's everybody's feelings on it?
Well, it sounds like from what Steve is saying, it sounds like it's made sense for a while. And I guess it makes sense to me, pending hearing from anybody else that lives or has anything to do with that stretch of property, which would be the point of a public hearing. So I guess I'd say we move, my recommendation, or my feeling is we should move forward with a public hearing to find out that information.
Pink, what do you feel about it?
I feel we gotta go forward, so.
For a public hearing?
Yeah.
Teresa, how about you?
Yeah, a public hearing is only fair.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about whether or not we like this idea right now, we're just talking about whether or not we want to hear from the public, which we always do, so.
Any other input?
I have to agree with the public hearing, but in the meantime, is there something that could be done to expedite Mr. Gifford's request as an individual without involving this giant block?
How would we go about doing that? Is there a way of doing that?
There's probably not a way of going about that, other than, going through the variance process, which isn't going to be any quicker than this process, quite frankly.
And
You
the
go
reason-
through a variance, it takes a while to go through the variance process.
Steve, again, the reason we're not just doing the properties that are being requested, doing this whole property is so that there's an alternative for businesses to be able to use?
It creates an alternative for businesses, but you can't spot zone. You can't take those, say, 3 pieces of property and say, we're going to create a mixed-use zone right here in this, because it turns into spot zoning,
Yeah.
And why can't we do that?
because it's against the law.
Yeah, the law says we can't do that.
Didn't we have that in effect, like decades ago, and this is what some of the rezoning
Right,
of...
and again, that was some of the impetus behind doing mixed-use zoning over here, because we had so many houses that were stuck in the general business zone that were no longer going to be used as general business. People wanted to use them as houses, but couldn't, and had to go through the variance process. So we ended up with 2 or 3, I think a 4th was pending, variances to allow that to happen, which is why we took a look at mixed use over on this side.
You had a question?
Yeah, I think this is coming before the zoning board of appeals. No, that's not it?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, it's okay. All right, so then,
Different issue.
you want to set up a public hearing on this?
Sure. Do the people that live through here or have business get a special notification, or do they just, like everybody else, in the paper?
No, it would be in the
Legal
legal notice in the paper.
Word of mouth gets pretty fast. So when do you want to set up this?
Why are you looking at me?
Well, I mean, give me the dates. I mean, we need a certain time, right?
Well, we're already meeting in
What?
December for something.
Huh?
Right, may as well do it this December meeting, right?
We're gonna have another one coming up too. Well, we've done 2 before.
Well, then we have 2 things in December, the board meeting and there's an additional meeting on the 14th.
Yeah. The 14th is not gonna be here though. It's gonna be, one's gonna be at the fire hall and one's gonna be Soil and Water.
The next board meeting is the 4th of December.
December 4th?
Yeah, may as well do it then, sure.
I need you make a motion for
Make
that?
a motion. Well, do we have a public
Yes.
hearing?
I'm sorry, Steve, to cut you off, and I'm not trying to make this an interactive experience, but before you decide on the meeting and things like that, you should decide on what sections of streets would be involved in that. So, I mean, in Teresa's comment, what can we do, or Steve, what can we do to expedite this? I don't know, to the extent that if you start small, it can then be expanded, so it doesn't have, pose the risk of too much, like to do the Sewell and Williams, or what it is. But I think before you go to public meeting, you should define the scope of the streets and residents who will be affected. Then you decide what the public meeting is going to be about.
Well, you have that on here.
Well, and again, that's up to you. Do you want to propose this entire thing for discussion? Do you want to pare it down?
I would think.
Tightest place
I
to
would like to
Sewell?
go tightest place and put as less of the public personal homes involved as possible. Me personally, but that's up to everybody else. Otherwise, we would do from Maple Street down to Sewell Place.
Steve, I still have another question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
So anybody who wants to have the zoning changed, we have to start doing mixed use all over the place?
No.
I mean, if this
No.
guy, these people want this one parcel done, and we're doing all of this,
You don't have to do anything with this
okay,
tonight
right.
or ever.
Well, that's-
Okay.
That's yet to come.
The reason why I'm bringing this forward and discussing it is because we've had this discussion in the past with the planning board. I think this fits into what we had talked about in the past. And remember I said they wanted to take little bites? Okay, well, maybe this is the next little bite.
So we end up with a concept of where we were hoping to end up originally.
If Givens wants to go further with just on his, then he has to go for a variance.
Right. If you said absolutely tonight, we're not going to look at this in any way, shape, or form, then his next option would be to try to access the ZBA.
Well,
and go
maybe
through
we
a
should go
variance.
that way.
That's where, I really don't like putting residences into a mixed zone. I don't like doing that. I want to keep our residential areas residential.
Well, and I think the argument, certainly from William Street to Sewell Place, although that does capture a few houses in there, from William Street to Sewell Place, half of that is not residential to begin with.
Okay, so we don't even need to address that, right?
Well, yeah, you gotta change what it is now.
What is it?
He doesn't mean
If it's not
zoned
residential?
resident, he means functioning.
Yeah, it's half of, you're right, half of it is functioning as commercial space, half of it is functioning as residential,
And we're talking about the castle.
right? And the zoning is residential,
The castle is in a residential zone?
correct?
Okay.
You got a variance, right?
Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, theoretically, we can just do the castle and then the Grange and
You
then
would have to,
Giffords.
you basically have to go from street to street.
Yeah.
Again, you have to have that.
You can't pick out that spot.
You have to have that continuous zone in there, and basically it's street to street. That's why, again, you go back to, if Giffords goes and seeks a variance, then he's seeking a variance on these 3 parcels in this corner, which become whatever they're going to become if the variance is granted. Everything else around it is still residential.
Okay.
Zoned.
Now, to get a special variance, you gotta show there's a reason why.
Right.
And the chances, I mean, let's be honest about it, the chances of him getting a special variance to that is 0 to...
Use variances should be very rarely granted.
You have to, right, you have to show a really special reason why.
Well,
So
and that's
knowing
fair.
that,
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
But
it
again,
seems to
I
me.
think, just, again, my personal opinion, I think it makes sense because you have so much, at least from Sewell to Williams, you've got so much resident or commercial use there already.
It has that kind of feel as well.
So that
But
puts,
again,
like,
ult-
Doc O'Connell's house.
Right.
And Bulkey's
Right.
house.
And that doesn't mean that they ever have to be used as anything other than a house.
Right. And does go around the corner, or does that include, what's the superintendent's house? Does that include his house?
On the proposed map,
house?
on the map that I have here, it captures that. Does it have to? Probably not.
so you guys make a decision what you wanna do. I mean, what would you make suggestions, make a comment, or make a vote on it?
My feeling is I would like to keep the mixed use as small as possible, even just down to letting Mr. Gifford go for a variance. I just don't like putting, yes, I know, I understand what you're saying, that doesn't have to be used that way, but, at some point, somebody on the corner might open a business and now it's in the middle of a residential area, and you buy a house in a residential area, you expect it to be a neighborhood.
And what do you feel about it, Steve? How do you feel?
I really wish there was a way for him to get what he was asking for without us having to rezone an entire 10 blocks of the village. I mean...
Well, we can say then, let him go and speak to the ZBA and see if he can get a special variance for it. And then if not, he can come back and we can address it after that. Again, if we wanted to. I'm just, if you don't get Plan A, you can try Plan B.
I mean, if we're changing it for flood regulations, that's a different meeting. That's not about Mr. Gifford.
No.
Right. I agree with,
Okay, so.
yeah.
So then somebody make a suggestion and we'll vote on it and see where we go.
I thought we did this already. I thought we
No,
talked
we didn't
about
do
this
it
already,
on-
that he was going to, that it wasn't coming to us and he had to go to the zoning board.
So if he doesn't get what he's looking for from the zoning board, would have this as a fallback. Yeah, I'm not against that then.
So I need someone to make a motion again.
So the one you started, we're getting rid of?
We're now canceling that. I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah, well, good. So we're gonna
I got halfway through.
tell him to go to the
People started
ZBA.
blinking at me.
Didn't he already send the letter to the ZBA?
Well, do we need a motion? I mean, because if we're not
No,
doing
he's
it.
we're not gonna take any action. No, he's gonna
So he
go to
goes
the
to-
ZBA.
okay.
Yeah, because this letter that we have is addressed to the ZBA.
That's the second letter.
Okay. Okay.
So he hasn't still gone to the ZBA yet,
No.
though, right?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it that he goes to the ZBA, is that what you're saying?
I would think that should be the
You
first.
feel that way too?
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, as long as you got this as a fallback.
I do.
Okay. That's that.
Okay, I lied to you. I said I was going to be quick, and I wasn't quick.
You were quicker than the last man.
So no action, then we'll put that.
Are they gonna wait for the next one, or you're like done with your next?
I will go see if they're still
What's the
there
next
when I'm done. All right, this is just food for thought at this point. The Flood Commission is essentially in agreement. Our local flood analysis is going to be adopted middle of September. That's one of our special meeting, or middle of December. That's one of our special
We're having a
meetings.
joint meeting then.
Yes.
Right.
So, again, long story short, basically, of the proposed projects in that local flood analysis, the Mead Street Bridge area is probably the ripest fruit in terms of, we have willing participants there in terms of wanting to, or at least they have said up to this point, nobody's put anything on paper yet, wanting to participate in buyout relocation program, all that sort of thing. Basically what the flood analysis says, and this is true of every bridge within our village, the bridge is too small, it's got to get bigger. In order to get bigger, we're going to have to acquire some property to make room for it.
The Mead Street Bridge over by Liberty?
This is,
Like
yes.
where Turnberry was there?
Yeah, where the Wallace Bag Company was there.
Okay.
Okay, so that area. And again, this is just food for thought at this point. Not really going to take any action until we have adopted the local flood analysis, but this is going to be coming down the pipe. So ultimately, the discussion and the decision is going to need to be made in terms of these 4 properties on Mead Street, in terms of being bought out and then being relocated. And of course, the way that program works is they have to be a willing participant, and the village has to agree to, that's what you want done in terms of this project. So.
And what, are the buildings taken down?
The property, it's similar to the Breaking Motors situation. Okay, the property is acquired, the buildings are raised, and then, whatever work is done there that needs to be done. In this case, I foresee connecting the floodplain next to the country store up to that bridge location and starting to create floodplain above that. Quite frankly, when you start talking bridges, you start talking millions of dollars to replace, so that's probably a longer term part of that project, but step 1 is going to need to be getting the space to be able to do that. So,
But then, when the buildings are raised, it just forever stays grass green area,
Yep,
right?
it's created, it's turned into a floodplain. Actually, the lower side of that, I can foresee creating some sort of vehicular or pedestrian access from Mead Street so that you could access that whole wide open area, that floodplain that was created next to the country store, so that you could actually use that piece of property for something.
Where Wallace Bag used to be.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yep, so, at any rate, I just wanted to get that out there, because you're gonna probably hear me squawking a bunch about it, because I think it's important. We need to move it forward
Is it
to
gonna
the
be-
extent that we can.
Is it gonna be on the agenda at the December 14th meeting?
The local flood analysis is the agenda for that meeting, so that.
You have the thing that I think Jody sent you guys.
There's 2
Right.
files.
Yeah, it's in there.
Right.
It is.
Yeah,
Thank you.
In the 50% cemetery.
okay.
How many,
Anything else?
how many homes are?
There are 4 total there.
That would be the ones adjacent to the bridge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, there's one that's occupied full-time, 2 of them are vacant apartment houses, and the 4th is a rental that they're trying to sell now anyway, a small, single-family rental.
Yeah, I know the houses.
But then
Yep.
there's
And at the flood committee, because I'm on the flood committee, I brought up, it's great to want to move these places, but I said, we are not going to stick the taxpayers with extra rent when they call it. We
Right.
need to get them a location within the village so that everybody stays
The whole-
same.
the whole-
I was the lone voice that went up and started arguing. They hate to hear from me, but I said, we got to think about the taxpayers.
Yeah,
And we have an
absolutely.
answer for that, so
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that in a few minutes, but we
Yeah.
got to think about.
And that's why there's a buyout relocation portion of this,
Yeah.
because we want them relocated in the village, in a safe spot where they're not gonna get their feet wet.
And the taxpayers don't have to get hit with
And you're
extra.
putting a new house on an empty lot and
But it
making
still
up the
takes 4
majority.
properties off our tax rolls, doesn't it? I mean,
Not unless we get other properties coming in that are going to be added to the tax roll.
you mean the village is going to get more property
Right.
within our border?
I'll explain it to you in a few minutes. If you give me a break.
Is this similar to what happened with the Davis car lot?
Same program, yes,
Same program, yeah.
yes,
That his is approved, so it's
Correct.
like that?
correct. Yep.
So, well, with that, is there an alternative that we're not going to lose tax money?
He's gonna talk about that.
You've said that.
I did say that.
You're running all the bruised ribs tonight.
I just want
I'm going to go like this. you know.
And on that note, unless there's any other questions, I gotta go see if I can make my other meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, seeing how we was talking, I was going to wait a little bit longer, but seeing how we started talking about this now, Sheffield Estates, which is over by, where Sheffield Estates is, has been purchased from a firm in Syracuse. Lee, I'll get you the name, I don't have the name of it. They are in contract now, the closing should be within a month. They are going to take over the original project. John McEntee will be the manager. They are going to build 60 condos over there. They're going to do 10 the first year they're there. That's part of what we're talking about. They are in the village, they are being taxed now, but they're being taxed as, what do you call it? Vacant lot. When they put up these condos, the values are gonna go up quite a lot, so we're gonna make a lot extra money. So that's where the money's, that we lose one way, we're gonna make up on the
Okay,
other.
but we are still going to be losing that money. Okay.
You're losing that lot, but you're gonna be gaining
Yes, but
5 times
but the
more.
point is, if we didn't lose those lots, we're still going to gain those lots. Those lots are coming.
Right,
We're still going to lose those.
right.
Yeah, so, okay.
You're still going
There's
home
my
with bruised
point,
ribs
thank you.
tonight.
I won't be invited back,
Yeah.
will I?
So, but anyway, they're gonna be closing in within a month.
Awesome.
And they're gonna start building right away. Like I said, the first year 10, and they've already got a lot of feelers out and people are interested in it. They had a lot more people that were interested back in 2005, I think it was.
And they're beautiful.
There were a lot of people that were interested in it. People in the village wanted to sell, move down, some of the
Right.
older people.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, a lot of people had down
So, I mean,
payments and
I'm
everything.
thinking this could be a very positive thing. They're gonna be.
Why was there so much? I remember the meeting from then. There was a lot of people who were really upset about that place.
There's always somebody upset
No,
about
there was a
something.
lot of people that were really upset.
That it was being built?
Yeah, what was it? And, I mean, I have apartments, a few, not very
Yeah.
many, but I kind of worry when you say we're gonna get all these new, we have a hell of a time renting our.
Well, these aren't gonna be renters, these are gonna be buying, they're gonna buy these places. These aren't renters, there's no renting there.
Okay.
No Section 8, and it's gonna be,
It's gotta be on right.
Thank you.
and it's gonna be, I think he's looking for
I mean, I
people
hate to
55
sound
and above.
selfish,
It's like an older
that's my
community, that's what it's looking for. So I think it'll be a positive influence. Okay, let's go to the next thing. How about Bill Brown, Delaware Engineering?
You can say.
I missed something?
Just the 55 thing. so.
Oh, maybe.
Evening.
Sorry to throw you under the bus.
I'm here for. Couple things to touch base on tonight. Most of it's stuff we've had on our handout for the last couple of months.
Mr. Brown, is your firm located in the village?
My, yes, Townsend Street, we have an office. The grit screw is another project we're working with Senator Bonasek on. I reached out to Dasney, who's administering that grant today, and
cool.
We're trying to keep that moving. The grit screw is something that DEC is looking for the village to get up and running again.
So that's like really good news.
I think it's good news.
They're gonna get like 50,000 for that, right, from Bonus?
Yeah. The air compressor project, the air compressor itself has been done for, I think, 2 months now. But the village, we added additional work to it to replace a valve and repair some piping. That work's been completed. We do have a invoice from S&H Mechanical for the work they did there. So we're asking that the village authorize payment to them for that. That's $12,138.46.
I'll make that motion.
That was in the budget.
And we have the cash from the city, yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
It is a New York City cost. It's in the sand filter building in the back, so they pay for everything back there. The next two, the influent pumps and the lighting, we've talked about over the last couple of months, kind of ongoing work down there. The New York water grants, the village received a letter today that we weren't successful in that application for round 3. So we'll revisit that. It is a ongoing program that was funded for another 2 to 3 years. So we'll consider that in the next rounds. Shepherd Street we have on our agenda. I don't have anything to ask of you guys tonight. Obviously, we have some reviews to make. I think we did have good input from the public. One thing to consider with that, the $100,000 SAM grant is, again, being administered by DASNY. We have to wait for DASNY to approve all the funding and approve all the paperwork, which takes some time. So the village, even if you really wanted it, you couldn't really initiate that project and expend dollars until DASNY signs off on all the paperwork. So it's going to take a little while to go through that. Senator Bonasek's office was able to, get it secured, and it's on the docket, but we have paperwork we have to do with the funding agency that'll take some time there. So that'll allow us to, revisit alignments and stuff like that. So I think that'll be positive from that side. Delaware County Soil and Water Conservation District, they have a program out for the last several years for their stream management implementation program. They have a application, a pre-application that we put in for, and if selected, we could look to submit a final application. The project we talked about with Soil and Water was to install what's called in-stream grade control measures in the brooks in an effort to reduce erosion and ultimately prevent the washout of the utility lines. Is in the areas we're targeting to put these grade control structures, which are basically rock linings in the stream below or at or below the water elevation to prevent the stream from washing out. The village has 13 stream crossings. Basically every place there's a bridge, there's generally a water and a sewer line going across the brook on one side or the other of the bridge. In 2006, we had 5 of those get washed out and required repairs, and we had, service was down for a couple of days after the flood event because of those washouts.
Any of them near Shepherd Street?
Mead and the Mead Street Bridge.
East. Around the corner.
and East Street.
How much deeper are these lines than the stream bed?
The ones we repaired after '06 are about 10 foot deep below the stream bed. The ones that haven't been repaired, there's spots where you can see the top of the pipe. There's some of them are encased in concrete, and there's spots where you can see the top of the concrete encasement. So they do have some level of protection.
So there is erosion too, though.
Right. I mean, as when there's a high water event, as the stream bed might get washed away in one spot or another, if there happens to be a pipe there, the pipe's probably going to stay because it's secured back into the bank in two spots. But the gravel that's supporting it and protecting it, may not be there anymore. Maybe in a different spot. So in spots where there's sanitary sewer lines, those can be more prone to washing out. They're not a steel pipe in all cases. So this is a 100% grant program to hopefully look to protect your infrastructure. So when you do have a flood event again, we don't have 5 washouts. So
I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign the grant application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The last
And
item.
we're gonna put it for all of them, right?
Yeah, we're going to start with all of them and work with some
I
of
said
them and
ask,
see what
that's
their
why I
budget
said,
is.
ask from them all, and let them say no. If we start with 5, they wanna cut it down, at least 13, maybe we'll get 8. So we try.
We do have one other item. Over the last month, we've been notified by Senator Bonasek of the New York Rising program, or excuse me, Restore New York Communities Initiative. Sorry, New York Rising is a different one. It's a program to provide funding to municipalities to kind of fight blight and buildings that are in disrepair and falling down and whatnot. It's for demolishing, deconstructing, rehabilitating, and/or reconstructing vacant, abandoned, condemned, or surplus properties. And the goal is to revitalize urban centers. So it's a program that's in its 5th round. There's actually a grant application due December 15th. So working with the village to see if there's options out there that may be applicable, that the village could tap into this funding stream. It's a 90% grant program with a 10% local match, up to about $1 million for a village of our size. Part of that grant application is to hold a public hearing. So we would like the village to consider holding that at the December 4th board meeting in advance of the 15th application. At that meeting, we would, have a project developed that we could get into further detail. But at this stage, we're still kind of vetting different alternatives.
Do we need a motion for we'd all make that motion?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
That's it. We'll get the ad. Work with Jody to get the ad together.
Can you give me an example of what you're talking about as far as taking something apart here?
There's a building in downtown Oneonta that the Otsego IDA and the city of Oneonta secured funding for. I believe it was a car dealership, and it's been vacant for several years. They received money to tear out of this program last year to knock that building down, and then that's the first step in putting a new building there to have as an active commercial building. They're looking
It's
at
actually money to rehab a depleted building, make it into a business, so business can come in and take it over and run it. So
Well, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, it's gonna be something
It's
that,
to kind of put, ultimately, they want to have, business and commercial. I mean, it can be used for some housing stuff too, but to have development in your, core areas to try to get them up and going.
Get something happening.
okay. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Jason?
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
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 Any questions on my report?
What we doing?
Who are you with?
Lately, we have been experiencing some issues with our influent turbidities have gone up. Currently, the plant's running a lot better than it was this time last week. Working with Kraft, trying to nail things down, but it's the same song and dance. So hopefully we continue to, run better. I do have some requests this month for funding, all budgeted, all New York City.
Yes.
The first, we had budgeted for sand replacement in filter number 4. That work has been completed and invoiced. I requested the village authorize Jody to pay Paragon Environmental Construction $75,506.65, and that is a 100% New York City expense.
You're saying 75, my paper says 76.
Yeah, 76,506.
Okay,
Need a motion?
so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Going along the same theme, the air lifts, which are pieces of equipment inside the sand filters, which clean the sand. We're looking to purchase 12 replacement air lifts for the sand filters at a cost of $8,758. This is from Parks and Equipment. This is also a 100% New York City expense.
Need a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
With the compressor project that was just finished, we have a service contract with the new compressors we're looking to enter into. We're requesting that the village board authorize the mayor to sign the compressor service contract with Atlas Copco for a cost of $4,259.40. That is also a 100% New York City cost, and it is budgeted.
I'll make a motion, we pay that bill.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. It's always great when it's the city money.
Yeah, especially that much. I get.
Yeah.
Jason, the rags and that are being, have to be cleaned out, has it decreased at all with all the pleas we're putting out here?
It's hard to tell. I think we're pulling the influent pumps less, which would be the pumps coming, the first pumps directly into the plant. We're still pulling the interior pumps just as much because over the years it's been so much that's come through. There's a lot of rags that are inside the plant. So even if everyone today stopped,
It'll take a while to catch up.
it's going to take years to get them all out of there.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Years.
So again, we put that plea out to people to do not flush those wipes, even though the container says flushable.
Absolutely. Any place in tanks where we have pipings, strapped to the walls and there's rebar or anything holding the piping to the walls, they catch on all that stuff. So, it will definitely take years, and it would take somebody entering tanks and physically pulling these things off and getting them out of there. I mean, it's going to be a continuous process for a long time, but if they can definitely stop coming in, then that limits what's going to be in the plant.
Do you ever see that, this is serious, that job, Mike Rowe is the guy, the dirty job?
Yeah.
Man, if this isn't I don't know, there's somebody I don't know if they get paid for showing them those things, or...
Jason could co-host the show.
Well, I'm thinking maybe there's some money to be made here,
Yeah,
Jason.
absolutely. It's worth looking into, anyway.
Jeez, I mean, you're right up his alley.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, thank you.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Jason.
Teacher. Why? They had them all listed. That was the back. This time, that was the last one.
This time.
We'll make them next time.
Hopefully everybody got a report.
Yes, thank you.
I didn't.
Really?
Where was it, in the mailbox?
It was in an
In
email.
your email.
We'll have to,
Don't mind the fact I used to.
don't mind the fact that I've got it all wrinkled up. Because the heated Shepherd Street meeting had me all nervous. First, I guess the saddest part of it all is we lost Tahir to Cobleskill PD. So he's now on to a new career, unfortunately. And we're slowly looking to replace him and trying to find the right people. Secondly, we just had another intern complete their internship here. We've really developed a good relationship, especially with SUNY Delhi. They're starting to send us some interns, and they're definitely getting their eyes open. This was a local boy who had no idea what Walton PD did, and when he left, we had a whole different idea about what Walton PD did. The new computers that you guys allowed me to buy are now up and running, thankfully. Rich sincerely appreciates that. And ironically, kind of in return for that, I sat down here about mid-month with a 33-page grant proposal for replacing our security system, our security video system in our interview room. And Rich came walking into my office, and the piece of equipment that we had that was doing it, the DVD, was literally screaming. And he said, you know, I wonder if that is a drive or if that's a fan. And we took it apart, and I went down to ICO and for $5 saved myself 33 pages of grant proposals. So that's probably the best $5 I've ever spent.
How far into the grant proposal were you?
Oh, no, I just started. Rich saved me again. So he's a very valuable asset to that police department, more so than people will ever know.
Rich earning his keep again.
It is.
Awesome.
So other than that, I really have nothing. Made it through Halloween good, and couple parades this month, and
Seemed really late at our house on Platt Street. I mean, it just really, they started late and finished early, and there weren't that many, I mean, fewer teenagers for what that's worth.
yeah, midweek is a very
That
nice
makes a
thing.
difference, yeah.
Yep, it really does. So,
Good.
that's it for me.
Thank you, Chief.
Good,
Thanks,
thank
Paul.
you.
Matt, last but not least.
You've had your chance. Go ahead, man, ask for a bunch more.
I'm not asking for anything.
Good.
Did everyone get a copy of the report?
Good, thanks, Matt.
Any questions?
I couldn't print it. I don't know if it was at your end or mine.
Had to been yours.
Yours.
What, you think about that a minute?
It's pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, we'd set it up ahead of time.
You good? The big things was the Austin Lincoln well 3, number 3 is rehab, that went good, and we got our water tanks inspected, just waiting on the results for all that. And just getting ready for wintertime.
Seems like it's coming.
Yeah, it is.
Salt shed full.
Not yet, but we're getting there.
I have a question while you're here. Got a hard one.
Yeah.
We had some information that came from Mobility, the company that wanted to put
Tower?
a pole. Well, I'll say towers. Well, it's not really a tower. It's a pole. Pole up, 120-foot pole up by the water towers. That's where the tower comes in. And at the top of this pole would be something for all the people coming with the phones, so they could they can rotate paying often if they have bad. So like a lot of times people have problem with repeater. That's what I couldn't think of. And Mobility wanted to come in and put up one by the water tower. It would be 120 feet high. It would be about the diameter of a regular telephone pole, so it's not really that big. And as far as color, we can decide what color we want to make it, whether it's green or...
So they're not putting a monstrosity like the town has there?
No, it'll just be...
a round pole.
It'll just be a round pole up there.
Telephone pole.
And they've been asking us to do it for a while, and I said, I kept going back and forth at them, because there's not a lot of money involved in this. It would probably be like $1,000 for us to get out of doing it. But the other part, anybody that came in or people here that have problem with cell service now would be able to get it from the repeater up there on the top of that. It would make it a lot easier for people to get cell service.
Sure was gonna ask.
So if we asked him to paint it dark green so it looks like a tree?
He said he would, yeah, he said he would work with us, any design, any color we want. And it's
Maybe
just,
the different seasons, we could change the color.
I don't think,
Like the Empire State Building, just put lights on
Yeah.
it.
Just put lights on it.
no, they went up to, by the water tower, you know, you've been up there, right?
Yep, but it was the,
That
that was
same
the guy I
guy,
brought
would
up,
think,
yeah.
would not think, would see.
Yep.
Death ride of my life going up there.
No, stop.
So you think that would propose?
You're on
That could have any issue with us, the towers or anything up there?
I wouldn't think so.
No, I mentioned Roger too.
I
but
can ask
wanted
our
to-
electric guy, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
Is it $1,000 a year or
Yeah,
one
that's all.
time?
$1,000
We
a year.
have a communication between the tank and the wells, which comes to our shop, but I don't I'll ask, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming these things have been developed for long enough now, but any issues with, if you're gonna have a pole that high, it's gonna be a lightning rod, and is it gonna, I don't know how they're ground, I don't know how lightning rods work, if that's even what you call this thing, but I'm just concerned, is it being next to the water tower, or near the water tower, is there any kind of an issue that's created with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, is that the thing you wanna find out after the fact?
Yeah, they put these up all over the place. This is not the first time they put them
Well, yeah,
up.
but they might not be putting them up next to water towers.
Yeah.
And all our piping is grounded up there too, so.
Plus all the.
I will ask that
The
question.
pole would be highly grounded,
I would think, I just,
whether you want it or not, I know it will be grounded, so,
I will double check with you.
yeah.
Okay, I just want to know what you thought about it.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
you two want a room or something?
I didn't tell him to say that. Thank you, Matt.
All right, thank you.
Okay, number 4 is public input. We know we've had a lot before, but it was on something different. Do you have anything? Yes.
I would like to, Maxine Locker, Howell Street, I would like to invite the entire board to march in the parade that they're having for the day in Walton. I think it would be a really good idea if you guys were all there marching and participating as citizens of Walton and letting people know who you are.
Some years we have.
I don't remember ever being invited before, so.
No.
You're being invited tonight.
Thank you.
Is this the pre-Christmas parade?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that everyone,
I think the last time we marched, it was like 12 below zero.
Are you marching?
November 25th.
Kinda. I'm running around trying to get people to be in the parade.
Paul, is it true the Chamber of Commerce is providing food and drink?
I don't know.
What was that?
Is it true that the Chamber of Commerce is providing food and drink?
You are really funny. Did you go to the Chamber of Commerce meeting?
No, I just,
This is not a Chamber of Commerce meeting. This is a Lions Club.
The Lions Club, I'm a member of the Lions Club. The Lions
You know,
Club,
the Lions Club should come out as a group too. It's their parade. I think
a lot of them are going to be working, you know, we give out the hot dogs and the hot chocolate and other stuff at Breaky Motors.
You know, the thing about you guys is though, that nobody knows who you are. I mean, they know who some of you are, but Teresa, when you voted last year, I recognized you, but I couldn't figure out where I knew you from. You know? And David Brzee, I haven't got a clue who you were, and a lot of people in this town don't, and it would be really interesting if they saw you as a real person instead of somebody who sits behind the desk and makes all these rules.
Well, let me clarify one thing.
What?
This parade, 12 years ago, used to have the town and the village mayor and the and everybody marching it, because I marched them before,
Well,
and then they did away with it. Then they all of a sudden they did away with it. You remember? Oh, we always used to march in it.
I
You
think
marched
you
in it. Yeah, we always did, but they did away with it. They uninvited
Hopefully,
us.
there will be some more things revived and added.
Well, I hope so. But I remember at least 5 or 6 years that I've walked in the parade.
I think you should.
It goes for you.
I think everybody should. I think you should be a public,
As a homecoming.
people should know
Yeah.
you, know who their
Yeah.
representatives
Oh, yeah,
are.
he'll be on the homecoming, we'll put him on the float. Okay, good. Anybody else like to say anything? Yes.
Just one thing I have to say, you know, the meeting follows the same order, so I don't miss the agendas. What I would appreciate is if some of the department head reports were either, it's likely not efficient to provide them to attendees because you never know who's going to be here, but maybe if you could append them to the minutes so we could get a better idea, because I know that the department heads provide reports and then talk about them in broad strokes, but it would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Thank you. Trustee reports. Steve?
There are no reports from the code enforcer.
Okay. Teresa, you have anything?
No, the chief handled everything.
Good for the chief.
Very nice.
Dave, anything for you?
Yeah, I do have something, I got a handout for people.
Of course.
The Walton Theater Preservation Association is, Jim Rice is applying, wants to apply for a grant to have that's Steve's, and that's
Oh, they'll have separate special ones?
Pink's,
Oh, you got mine.
and that's Jody's. I shouldn't have bothered.
Don't touch mine.
Anyway, he wants to apply for a grant that will have put up the state highway historic markers, the blue and gold signs?
Yeah, blue and yellow, yeah.
Well, there's this organization, the William Pomeroy Foundation, and they were started several years ago, and they fund grant applications for similar sorts of signs at historic sites in New York State. And Jim Rice has spoken with this fella, and they think it's likely to be approved, but they need village blessing before they apply for the grant, in the form of a brief letter, which is on the second page. They got the wrong sheet. It commemorates historic people, places, or things within the time frame of 1740 to 1917 by awarding grants to install historic markers. Funding includes a standard marker, mounting pole, and shipping. Grantees are responsible for the installation of the marker. They're very similar to the blue and golds, like I think are cast iron, or maybe something different nowadays, but very similar to that. It would be on the lawn in front of the theater. The foundation launched its historic roadside marker program in '06 to erect markers in towns, villages within Onondaga County. In 2010, the program was expanded to other counties in New York. And in 2012, they expanded the program to include all municipalities and I think not-for-profit 501c3 organizations as eligible grant recipients. The program is now open to all municipalities and I think tax-exempt organizations in New York State. We must include a letter signed by the landowner, which would be the village, the mayor, which demonstrates that the agency, the village, has permission to install. Well, I guess the agency might be, I guess they're doing it in the village's behalf. It wouldn't be the Theater Preservation Group. Permission to install the National Register marker on the site listed above, and it should be the theater. If the land is owned by a municipality or other agency, please have them use their official letterhead, letter example below. And just, I own the property and I give the agency permission to install the marker. Thanks, and it's a signature, and that's really it.
That's it, just the 3 lines, that's it?
Yeah. Now, I suppose you could expand it, but if this is the grant, the money, people with the money telling you this is what we need, so that's kind of silver platter stuff. It'd be placed in front of the theater on the Gardner Place side, and that's really it.
So you need a motion for that?
I would.
Are you gonna make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Need a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that's an easy one.
The only other thing Theater Preservation had done at their last meeting is that their next major project is going to be improved, within the theater, improved lighting. They've got somebody that had worked on Broadway working with them, and they're going to come up with almost like a request for a proposal sort of thing on like New York City theater, Broadway quality lighting for the theater versus the sort of antiquated stuff they have now. And
You mean stage lighting or the whole, stage lighting or the whole theater?
Stage lighting, so yeah, this is for the performances. And they'll be working on that over the next few months.
Nice.
But, I mean, it's not a village expense.
No, they've done really a lot of work for us. And
they've got a whole list of
Tell them
projects.
thank you from us on the board for all their work and their
It is
efforts.
really
Will
nice.
do.
And the concerts there are so nice. I went to the one Saturday night. It's really, that's a deal. $15, $13. It's a deal. You should go.
Thank
you. Do you have anything? Thank you, Dave.
No.
Okay. Mayor's report. Boy, we announced everything already. We talked about mobility. I mentioned Sheffield Estates. Sounds good. Now, number 7, legal notice, village elections.
I need permission to put a legal notice in the newspaper for the next election, which will be March, what is it? Hang on. It's 20th, I think, but let me make sure. March 20th. And there'll be 2 seats. It'll be 2 trustee seats, which would be Tink's seat and Dave's seat. So I need permission to put that legal notice in the paper.
Somebody make a motion, please?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carry.
That's all I have.
Okay, that's it. We need to go into executive session to talk about personnel, contract.
Motion?
Made a motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?